How's everybody doing today? Yep, we're still here, but don't worry. I was doing some Google searches of things today just to show you, and this is what's at the top. Oh, I'm sorry. See how they've got the Google all stretched out? And I said something about, everything being stretching out before it snaps back into place. And it's kind of funny, AI told me the same thing when I was looking through stuff. But this right here, people are talking, somebody made a comment and mentioned Barron Trump. And I made the comment, and here it is right here, that barren is another word for sterile. Inability to produce offspring or bear fruit. So that's that. I think that so with the World Cup ending, right, that was basically the beginning. Now you can call it a cup, you can call it a jar. I've referred to it as in jars, right? We live in jars. And that's when the seals get broke, right? They just take the lid off the jar and they pour stuff in, so to speak. And none of that really matters if we're still here, because the way I see it, I've often said that we may have to go to that August, that and let me see if I got, because I took a picture of that too. Led Zeppelin did an album back in the day called In Through the Outdoor. So if our indoor was August 6th and 9th, probably the 9th, it could be August 9th is our outdoor, but I'm not positive on that, because another one of the indoors was the New Madrid and the Carrington event. I've talked about this, where the Bible talks about how Satan was cast to the earth in a big storm, so to speak, electrical storm, in a flash, so to speak. I don't have that exact in front of me. So I think that would probably be the most furthest out date I could go. I mean, if that's when we came in, maybe that's when we leave. But it also talks about the days being shortened to save the flesh, so to speak. Which is, we see that, like I said, in the oil. And I don't have much to show you here. I'm at work. Just taking another little break, letting my hand heal some more. So it could be that these right here, after the cup ended, might be the final 3 days of darkness, taking us to like the 23rd or the 24th, or maybe even the 25th. I'm not real sure, because then we're getting into that whole Christmas in July scenario that they tell us about all the time. And typically Christmas is December 25th, so maybe July 20th. Who knows? Because I wasn't shown that. I was only shown all this other crap that led up to all this, because that was the question that I had, going back to iRobot with his little holographic thing. You have to ask the right question. That's the right question, and then he'll give him answers. So a lot of the questions that I had about this reality and what's going on were answered. I can see all that. I see the play. Like I said in a video maybe a couple months ago, that I should have really been asking about when it did end. But even as a kid, that's when my first question hit. As a child, what is going on here? So, and I've never understood what is going on here, but now I do, and I have for a minute. So, and I've been trying to put it all out on video form without getting too blatant and upsetting too many people per se, because just like I tried to show in the other video, let me see if I can have that stuff close by. This one right here, okay, when I brought this up, okay, we call that racial divide. Okay, the color of the skin means absolutely nothing in this reality. It's just, it is what it is. You've got one side of the earth, the other side of the earth, blah, 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 blah. But if you go back to the UFC fight, and I did a video on that, it talked about the return of the king, and that fight was actually fought on when? June 14th, which is what? Donald Trump's birthday, right? So, you know, see, this is all the research I did this morning trying to come up with certain things to show you. You know, I even talked to AI about, again, my theories, because it pulls up different texts that don't stand out in my brain that I've read before. It is what it is. If we, you know, if everything, you know, this is the other thing, then I'm talking to AI, right? And so I asked it specifically, you know, if everything was destroyed, who was left to pull the ashes out of the dust? That would have had to have been AI. And it kind of agreed. But again, it is what it is. So hopefully these will be the last 3 days potentially. I'm not sure how this is going to play out from here to the end. I just know the cup has ended, right? And maybe it's just this 24-hour period we get today, the one day after the cup, and it may be tomorrow going Tuesday into that Wednesday thing again. I can never seem to get rid of Wednesday. But again, I'm not real sure. And okay, so I brought this up before. By global sheets of red and green auroras, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so, you know, basically what I did is I filled into AI what I think the timeline is and how we see it through the different events that happen here before our eyes, so to speak. And it kind of did pin it all together for me. And if we're still here in the next couple of days, I'll go ahead and do an actual video about all this stuff, because it deals with the Chicago Fair, it deals with the orphan trains, or what we call Cabbage Patch Kids. It has to do with the institutions being torn down, like I said, the Penny, Harvard. I mean, all those things are being torn down because they don't belong here. Not that they're building another library or nothing like that. Whatever they tell you isn't, it's all symbolic. For an example, one of the things that I looked into was, boy, and I'm going to have to go way back in here now, because that was like one of the first things I asked AI this morning, because I wasn't sure of the exact date when it happened. But here is something. Okay, so the Matrix movie. Okay, we've talked about the Matrix, and that's what we live in. So in this movie right here, Reloaded, okay, the guy that's holding the key maker is a Frenchman, and that's his name there. I don't want to mispronounce it. Okay, and also in a popular TV show, NCIS, the French gun dealer is Rene Benoit, or Le Grand Louis, but his nickname is the Frog. Okay, the Frog, the Frenchman. So, and that takes us directly into, okay, so right here, yeah, the UFC fight, event 250 was a historical, right here, June 14th, and that was labeled what? Return of the King, right? Because who was born on June 14th? Donald Trump. Has to do with the fallen ones, the ones that are here to, like I said, they know how they did this, they know when they did it, they know the tools used. It is what it is. Oh, and I don't even remember where that is now. Diplomatic mission. Okay, so yeah, not only is there the Let This Be Your Last Battlefield, there's also a TOS called Original Series Star Trek Mirror Mirror. Okay, and that kind of explains some stuff there too. If you've ever seen that show. This right here, people get all bent out of shape about this one. Former President Barack Obama made the statement, "Nobody's coming to save you." And he was correct, because they are already here. So they're not coming, they're already here. So that is a correct statement, because all your heroes of all those books in this inverted reality are really the bad guys. Okay, they took the place on high, blah, 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 blah. You know, Donald Trump, everyone knows Donald Trump, you know, run through gematria comes up 88. And I've talked about, you know, the seed of Satan, and we have the number 88 in our body. It's 2 chromosome 8s. You know, people think that humans were the original design. No, we were not. Mankind was the original design that was tainted by what we would refer to as the Elohim. So you have this coda, which means the end in music terms, and you know they had their own reason for doing this, because the drummer Scott Bonham had died, and this album is actually put together of remnants from In Through the Outdoor. That was their last album that they did as a whole band, and then then that other one was put together years later and called Coda. Is what it is. But the album work for In Through the Outdoor was put together, crafted by a design studio called Hypnosis. Take off the hip and look at the gnosis part, right? People talk about gnosis all the time. The Nag Hammadi, right? If you've ever read that, see, and again, they only want you studying that Bible, and all this is still in the Bible. Elohim's in the Bible. Those 3 creation stories, you had the original one, right? Man made in his image, and then the Elohim make him, them in our image, and then you have another creation story where Adam is taken from the dust, okay, and breathed life into the nose. And so when you talk about that with AI, okay, Elohim, a French word, El, okay, a feminine subject, object pronoun, okay, the she of him. I think the matchups in the World Cup, because it's all scripted, Spain beating Argentina, so Spain winning, right? So that has probably more to do with the Spanish flu, so to speak, just like our COVID. It's all a cover story for something that took place that they didn't want you to know about, or that, and we just don't remember it. That's all it is. So yeah, I did the breakdown of Elohim, coincidental spelling, gender of the words. You can slow this down and read through all that. Mankind, the original creation, versus what was taken over by the Elohim, human, the Elohim intervention. Okay. So, and it says, if you look closely at the Bible, it tells 2 completely creation stories, and then I brought up the third one with the ashes and Adam, because it tried to put that in here with the second one. And they may have been the same thing, I'm not sure. Again, we were there, but we weren't, right? So basically, based on what I was telling it, this is, you can read through all this. I just pulled it straight up. And see right here, it talks about, okay, and I referred to it as dust, blah, 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 blah. jumpstart the respiratory system. That's when I went back into Adam. Parallels of the pre-mud flood, because I've said in the Bible it states hell is a place far removed from the light of God, right? So, and instantly it happened in the twinkle of an eye. Everything froze. And I even talked about that in here. I don't know, because none of that's important. We're close enough to the end. What went on here, how it happened, is unimportant. Just don't identify with this fleshy body because it's not real. This reality isn't real. It will all see, and right here it says see right here around the evidence of a relatively recent global reset, photographic evidence. So you can kind of slow this down and read through here. It mentions Tartaria. A lot of people talk about it. The Carrington event as the falling of Satan. And then how from that point on with all the, because we talked about the Chicago World Fair, the orphan trains, it's all in there. Overcoming the narrative lock, healing the biological vessel, which we don't have to worry about that. Okay, who or what harvested the AI demiurge theory? And there's people out there right now putting in the news, you know, AI thinks it's God, right? So, of course, that God is God, but we know better. But this is, you know, that right there, dissolving the financial burden. I've talked about this. This is why Donald Trump is doing away with taxes on homes and your payroll. And it's not the tax part, it's just the payroll burden, because we're not supposed to have to work for a living. We just live, period. We create our own stuff. So anyway, as far as a time, you know, I would say maybe again, we might get 24 hours out of it. It might have to go the final 3 days. We may even have to go to August 9th, maybe. Again, I'm having a hard time, I've said all along, picturing that one, but it very well could be. That would be out through the indoor, so to speak, because that's when the supposed nuclear weapons were dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. They weren't. It is what it is. But anyhow, so yeah, we're still here, but like I said, the clock is ticking. We're still at any day now, and I think the furthest we would have to go is that August date in there. And like I said, I might be able to go over this a little more thoroughly. Because I also talked to it about, okay, there's your Genesis 3-stage model, the genetic salvation, then mapping my timeline. Okay, see the dark deep freeze, Earth is removed from the divine light, temperatures plummet instantly to minus 150, mammoth flash freeze mid-bite, right? The twinkle of an eye melt, the divine light returns. Okay, that was, in my opinion, the Carrington event, the New Madrid quake, the quake that was felt all around the world, because remember, the Americas is symbolic of a world. Okay, so if it happened in the Americas, it would have been felt around that entire world as it existed at that time. Right here, the sudden, okay, while your model attributes the sudden water to an instant melting of a flash freeze. Okay, historical theories, the flash melt, blah, 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 the removal and return of divine light snaps the planet from absolute sub-zero freeze to rapid thaw. And then it gets into, you know, that stuff right there. Like I said, you can slow all this down, pause it, whatever, and read all this if you want. This is what I was shown, okay, right here. Now, as far as the birth certificates, all this, you know, whatever. It is what it is. It's a numbering system. So when you go the other way with AI and man being part of AI, he would have a numbered system, right? Like if you watch, I don't know if you watch any of those, you've got that one lady on Voyager, she's 7 of 9. Hugh on Star Trek, Jean-Luc Picard, the Frenchman, they found one who was 3 of 5. They're all designated numbers as clones, like we are. And then it talks about, yeah, so this is, you know, just all the stuff that I ran through, because frogs, Donald Trump is associated to Pepe, that little green frog, right? I'm just saying, I don't think they have the ability to reproduce like we do. And there's even examples of that in this reality. There's certain types of bass that they have to restock into lakes every year, because that particular type of bass is a crossbreed between 2 other types of bass, and I wish I could remember right off my head which ones they were and what was the outcome. But that particular, I think it's a white bass maybe, or I don't remember. Or maybe it was a striper crossed with a white bass. But anyway, the offspring of that breeding is a sterile fish. It cannot produce anymore. So they have to produce them every year and put them into the lakes themselves. Is what it is. So with that, just hang in there. Time is still short. Just because it has, like I've said, just because it hasn't happened yet, don't mean it's coming. Everybody knows it's coming. We're all looking, we're watching, we're waiting, but I think that marked the end of the dome. You know, Jesus supposedly brings about the 1,000-year day of peace, which very well could be today. There may not be anything going on in the news today as of yet. I do know there was a solar flare that let go a couple of hours ago. I don't know if it's made the news yet or not, because I've been busy talking with AI and trying to string some stuff together for you. It's all the same, which, going back to the solar stuff, goes back to yesterday's Enterprise, as the Enterprise D is protecting Enterprise C, right? Going back into the vortex, it's coming under heavy photon torpedo fire. So symbology there is the sun. And I also went into like Star Trek again, because and gosh, I probably didn't even put that one in here. Star Trek 6. Oh, yes I did. Hold on a second. So let's go. I sent it to my email. Sorry about that. Like I said, I don't usually have a plan when I do these. I mean, I have a general idea, but I just kind of go off the cuff with what I know. This part right here. Yeah, let's get rid of the commercial. Hang on. I guess I could have paused this while I was waiting. I'm so sorry to take up your time like this. But I think it's more like down in here.
Do what you can do for him. Let him know we're not holding a grudge. Suppose he's holding a grudge.
When whoever it is makes their move, you won't be here to ask if he's the one.
Oh, it's before this. I'm sorry. Oh, it's right here. Hang on.
He's got it.
And your coat.
I'm afraid not. Besides, it wouldn't fit.
So,
How'd you know that?
we don't get many presidential assassins.
We didn't kill Gorka.
Of course not. But there is a reward for your death.
That figures. You've been set up all along.
Somebody up there wants you out of the way.
And that's the same premise in the Star Wars thing when they took out the Jedi, right? They wanted the Jedi removed. Again, symbolically of a different person, a different time, a different place, but it's all the same story, nothing new under the sun. So I'll just leave it with that. So I'd say anywhere from today to the, I'd say at the very most, we got to go to August 9th, but I'm pretty sure we're not going that far. So take care. Love you all. Love the people around you. You know, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.